What has pushed you over the edge to get into this race?
Inner sense of purpose. Sounds a little corny, but a desire to make the world a better place. I got into politics for that purpose, and that drive has never left me. I have a lot of confidence in myself. Oftentimes I don't have confidence in others. I like to do the job myself. I feel compelled within to get into the race. Whatever I've expressed to you before in the past, it was just a matter of discussing things with my family. I mean, I think before you get into any race, you ought to answer the question: do you have a reasonable chance of winning? And although obviously at this level it's very difficult, I've entered one race before where I thought that I didn't have a reasonable chance of winning. I had a very good outcome.
There are going to be people who say, "Hey, you ran for lieutenant governor and lost really badly. You lost in your own county, which you represented for 20 plus years. How can you win a congressional race that goes across 25 counties?"
Even on that terrible, terrible day, I got more votes than any of the other candidates ever had. Even Steve Gaw would be next, but I received more votes on that day when I lost than he did when he won. So, if those same people vote for me again, that's a heck of a base to start out with.
Yeah.
And, I only have theories of what happened on that day, particularly in Boone County, and I can't say that it hasn't bothered me personally to think about that. I took the people in Boone County for granted. That may have been one of the problems. The money that I raised in that race I spent in St. Louis and Kansas City. I didn't have the money to do anything in Columbia. Maybe a guy or a person running for public office can never take his voters for granted. The term liberal means something to me. I can elaborate on what that means to me. I don't put myself in that box. I think as you look at issue by issue, on some issues I'm very conservative. On some issues I'm even a radical, but I think a lot of people do put me into the liberal box because they look at the issues that I've had to deal with over my political career, and they usually involve the government engaging in some type of activity. So, they call you liberal. And plus, the way that Republicans have been, it's a pejorative, and they like to call everybody liberals. But I don't mind that at all. I'm proud to be called a liberal. And I knew the people who were going to be running the government, Peter Kinder and Catherine Hanaway. I knew them both very well. I knew that they were neoconservatives, not conservatives. And I knew that the policies that they would promote had to be stopped. I personally said to myself, I looked around the room at the other senators and knew that I was the youngest, strongest, most aggressive member, and that I had to personally stop them. I made a personal decision that I would stop them, and I made a commitment and a promise to my constituents that there would be, if they were going to destroy the environment, if they were going to destroy public education, that if they were going to attack what healthcare system that we had, if they were going to cut people off healthcare, I would personally stop them. He came and talked to me about getting into the race against Holsoff, and I said, "Judy, you don't have any chance of winning. You're going to do a kamikaze." She told me, she was unhappy with the House. She wanted to go up or out. I said, "Well, you're a grown woman. You do what you want. But personally, my advice to you is don't do something that you don't have a chance of doing." Now, she's pounding her hands on her chest and saying, "Look, I was going to go out there and do that." And you were going to enter a race against an incumbent that you could not beat, that may be able to marshal $2 million to run against. I don't think that's good judgment. Why do it? Unless, a lot of people want to get into a race to elevate issues and discuss issues. If you don't really have the resources to talk about those issues, you're lost. I was there when Gaw became Speaker. I was a member of the House. I was trapped in the House chamber for 2 weeks when we were unable to pick a speaker. And, I've known Steve Gaw a lot. We've been through a lot together. He's talking a lot about the sales tax on food. Well, I was the first guy to pass that in the House. It passed unanimously. It didn't pass in the Senate that year. I ran for the Senate, went over to the Senate. He picked up the bill, passed it in the House, and I made sure it got through in the Senate. But Steve, kind of my perception of what happened when he became Speaker was that we only knew Bob Griffin as Speaker. I mean, he'd been Speaker for 14 years. All 12 of my 14 years in the House, Bob Griffin had been Speaker. Nobody else could think of anybody else being Speaker but him.
Right.
It was just Bob was the Speaker, and that's just the way it was. It's going to be a great election. Yeah. I think that the people of the 9th Congressional District are really going to be lucky to be able to make a choice among so many good candidates. If you look at the Democratic candidates running versus Republican candidates, we're more experienced. We're better known by the people. I think we're all good candidates. I think we're really lucky. I think, according to Hank Waters, this is what he likes.